Legendary boxer Rocky Marciano once said, "To win takes complete commitment of mind and body. When you can't make that commitment, they don't call you a champion anymore." Fellow talking tacticians, FCC got a big win over their fiercest rivals on Saturday. Are they ready to make the commitment to being that good from here on out? Or are their championships hopes only fleeting? Let's talk about it together. Hey, everybody. Welcome into Talking Tactics with Coach Gough. I am Coach Brad Gough, and this is a show where our complete commitment involves our bodies and minds, but not quite in the way that would ever make anybody call us champions. FC Cincinnati took the short drive north to take on a well rested Columbus Crew in the first Hell is Real derby of the 2024 season. And for all the plaudits that the Crew get from pundits for being the best team in MLS, FCC kind of made them look ordinary, holding them to just 4 shots on target and doubling up their XG. We're going to talk about how FC Cincinnati's defense limited the Crew, break down all 3 goals in the match, talk about Dado Valenzuela's impact on the game, and we're going to talk about all that and more with the one and only Justin Hoyte. Justin, how you doing today, my friend?
Fantastic, Coach. Another great weekend. What tops it off and makes it even better? Cincinnati victory. Hell was real in that derby game. What a performance, Coach! I must admit, it was a performance I didn't expect, and I most certainly know the Columbus Crew were not ready for what was in line for them this game. Cincinnati were really up for this, Coach. How are you feeling, Coach? How are you feeling after that game? And I know you didn't watch it live, but how are you feeling after that? Seeing that result and hearing that result and watching it after.
Yeah, getting off the airplane because I was in the air during the game. So getting off the airplane, and the first thing I did was open up FOTMob to see the score. And I saw the score and I was like, wait, that can't be right. So then I opened up Twitter and Slack and all the things, and I was looking, I was like, holy goodness, what did I miss? Because the prevailing wisdom was not even just that FC Cincinnati won, but that they, like you said, that they kind of took it to the Crew for a bit. So I thought certainly this is just overreacting, that FCC wins on the road, probably a smash and grab. So probably it feels better than it actually is. And then I watched the match, Justin, and you said it best. You said FC Cincinnati were up for this match. They were putting in hard challenges, but towing that line, not crossing over it. They were dominating possession at times, dominating chances, dominating XG, all of the metrics that show you how good a team was playing. FC Cincinnati had in favor of them. Crew obviously got that very, very late goal to make the game look closer than it was. But wow, what a performance. I can't wait to talk about it more. So let's first let the listeners know we're sponsored by Apollo Home. Give them a call if you have any HVAC, plumbing, or electrical needs. And while you have your phone out, head on over to the socials and give us a follow. I am at FC Cincy Tac Talk, and as always, you can drop us a note at Cincy Soccer Talk or in the electronic mail slots, feedback at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. Let's hit the film room. All right, Justin, then let's get right to it. Brett Silva got in touch and asks, can we speak to how FCC kept the Crew's midfield silent all game? And also throws in, how great was Miazga in this match? Our very own Brad Weigel of CST said, to be honest, I thought the key was the line of confrontation from our midfield. Like Buka and Wobodo were as high as he's ever seen them. And inversely, Nagbe was dropping ever and ever more deep. So Justin, let's talk about what FCC did to limit that vaunted Crew attack. Really, Justin, Brad Weigel kind of got it right for me, at least where it started. It all started with FCC directly accounting for Aiden Morris and Darlington Nagbe during that Crew build. Those two who dominate matches so frequently just couldn't get on the ball in good spots and certainly couldn't turn and dictate play hardly at all.
No, and in games and even the previous game in the playoff last season, we saw them. Is it Morris is his name? Morris, yeah, Morris and Nagbe really controlled that midfield. And I felt that they had so much more time in the playoff game. But this game, I feel the team and the coaching staff learned from that mistake from the playoff game and really took it to them. Man-marked Morris, man-marked Nagbe, put on so much pressure, was in their faces, was tight on them. They didn't have the freedom that they had in the past. And I really felt that made a huge difference. And I felt the team behind that were all in sync. And you saw when Kubo Buka really, when Obi and Buka pressed, you see that even Robinson, Miazga, or Murphy were ready to press on the next one as well. And that was the pressing cues and the pressing lines and really, really stopped their midfield because, as we know, Columbus like to play with them two in the central areas, and that's how they play, but they couldn't do it in this game.
Yeah, and they didn't press frenetically. It wasn't like they didn't often say we're going to go win the ball with the press. And that's what I thought was key because in matches in the past against the Crew, FC Cincinnati has gone in hard and then Crew are so good at making those little combination
Twisting,
passes and
yeah.
getting through that first line of pressure. Instead, what you saw, especially with Obi and Buka accounting for Nagby and Morris, you saw them hanging off of those players saying, you can get that touch, but when you get that touch, I'm going to close on you and I'm not going to let you turn. And that meant that Crew kept cycling possession in their own box or in their own defensive third before eventually playing it long. And then when they did play long, like you said, those center backs were up for it, ready to eat it alive because they were also pressed high. And if Crew ever did transition down the right, like there was a moment in the 16th minute where Buka was pressed forward and the Crew ended up hitting a long ball out to the right flank and then carried the ball up the wing. And it ended up with Matan crossing for what should have been a Cucho Hernandez shot, except Buka was all the way back in the box and defended that Cucho header and didn't allow him to get that touch. So it's like Buka was pressing, but when they did transition, he and Obi were so ready to drop and get involved. There's a moment in the 68th minute where Obi was pressed high on Nagby. Rudy Camacho pinged a ball to the right touchline to Matan again. Matan tries to flick it down for a streaking Morera, but Obi was right there, stride for stride, and shields it out for a throw in. It's like moments like that where you see those midfielders pressing and then also dropping defensively that I think were so key. You know, Justin, Buka and Obi, I don't think just did a good job. I think they dominated that midfield that so many of those pundits call the best in MLS, right?
Yeah. Stats don't lie, and the way they play is really go through them two. But Buka and Obi, this game really made Nagby and Morris look like normal players. Like any other player, they didn't look like the best two midfielders in the MLS. And looking at it now, if you watch the game back and watching these two, Obi and Buka, really perform together, they're building a partnership game by game. And if they're able to dominate the likes of Morris and Nagby in this game and in games to come. And, we're talking about two MLS best midfielders, everyone calls them. Now, if we got two midfielders on our end that are dominating them, you know, Cincinnati then become the best midfielders in the MLS. So that's only a great thing to have, and you have to applaud Obi and Buka for that performance. And I feel it also comes from a voice from behind, from the outside. I feel like he was giving the right information and instructions to them to be able for them to be able to press, or when they didn't press, they was able to sit back and wait for the time when they needed to make the appropriate decisions.
Yeah, let's talking about you mentioned Miazga. Let's jump in and talk about him and actually all those center backs for FC Cincinnati because the way that the Crew dominates the ball often and the way they attack, it's always going to put center backs in 1v1 situations. There's just too many bodies to account for. And that Crew was so good. In the 18th minute, there was a turnover that put Cucho Hernandez 1v1 against Matt Miazga in the box. And Matt pushed him to his right foot, but away from goal. So he wasn't cutting onto his right, heading towards the goal. And then because his hips were turned away from goal, the way he had to shape to hit the shot, Miazga was able to stick a foot out and dive in and block the shot. And it's like moments like that over and over, those center backs just stifled the Crew. And then they were tracking, the Crew loved to interchange positions and let like a Jason Russell Road drop into the midfield to link up play. Rossi's coming in off the wing to try to dictate play in the midfield. And those center backs were so good tracking those players all over the pitch. And part of it, I think, was that them playing so well allowed the wing backs to stay higher and to play on those players, like the advancing outside center backs, like Morera, like Amundsen for the Crew. The wing backs for FC Cincinnati could push up onto those players in the build because the center backs were like, no, we got this. We're good. Justin, how much better does it make your life as an outside defender when you just know, like there might be a forward dropping in behind me to try to get on the ball, but I have a center back there that's going to eat him for lunch if they try to play him that ball.
that makes your decision a lot easier, and you have the confidence then to be like, right, I've made my decision, knowing that I've got the support behind me. I know that I've got someone like Miles Robinson behind me, Miazga behind me, or Murphy that are gonna, let's just say, eat it up for breakfast. So you've got that confidence, and you know that whatever decision I make, and especially in this game, all the decisions were right. But I heard even the commentators say, even though Columbus were able to try and play in the channels or play forward sometimes to get in behind the defense, we got a strong back three and a fast back three that can deal with it. So that's why I feel that the outside backs have the confidence also to be a high press, knowing that even if the ball goes in behind, you've got the confidence to know that you've got three great defenders behind you, and you don't have to worry. And that's a great relief for you, because now you're like, right, I can concentrate on what I need to do, knowing that the people behind me, I've got full confidence that they're going to be able to do their job.
Yeah, and the thing about it is the way Crew attacks, what they often do is they play in like sort of a 3-4-3. So three central
Mm-hmm.
defenders, two center mids, two wing backs. That's the four. And then that three up
Mm-hmm.
top is so fluid. Nominally, it's two wingers and a center forward, but those wings will often drop deep into the midfield. They will pinch in from wide. And what they want is they want the opposition's outside defenders to follow them so that they can
Yeah.
release the overload of the outside center back and the wing back on that side getting forward against only a midfielder and a center back. But SEC didn't fall into that trap. They just kept pushing their wingbacks up to mark the opposition's outside center backs or wing backs, depending on what they needed, and let the center backs cover those wingers when necessary. And that takes an incredible amount of communication. There were a couple moments, Justin, when they didn't get it right. In the 18th minute, there was a moment when Kubo was pushed up high, marking the wing back on his side, Zawadzki. Cucho found a bit of space on the FCC left. And then you see a moment where Kubo is not working back to get to Mark Rossi, who's a winger, and also not giving a shout to Miles Robinson that Rossi was hanging off on his back shoulder. And that's that play
Mm-hmm.
when Cucho crosses and Rossi hits the volley, and it just skids wide of that near post. I will say I think Roman had it covered, so it wasn't that great of a chance. But it was like a moment like where I sat forward and like, oh, if I was watching it live, I definitely would have been sighing relief. There's a very similar moment in the 48th minute. This time it's Moreira who crosses, but again, it's Rossi just off that back post. And this is one where he hits the header and loops it over Roman. Again, Roman has it covered, but it hits the crossbar. So everybody's like, oh my gosh, that was so close to going in. And Roman was not letting that go in. But the point
No.
is that communication, those points that I talked about were noticeable because for the rest of the match, that communication was so good that those wing backs, I don't know if they were talking to the outside center backs or if the outside center backs were just feeling the presence.
Yeah, 100, they
The
would have
Crew
had
had
to. Yeah.
so few opportunities like that normally they get in abundance because of the way that they interchange position and overload. Justin, what does it take mentally to play not only for 90 minutes, but not only in a rivalry match, but on the road in a rivalry match for 90 minutes and to keep that communication so high? Oh, and by the way, you were planning to play forward in the match and had to drop the wing back because somebody got hurt 13 minutes in. Like, just
Mm-hmm.
talk about what that would be like as a player, that kind of communication and concentration.
Uh, Takes a lot of discipline. And I feel in this game, having that concentration, having that focus, having that mindset, you could see that they had the determination also. And I feel they was just fully focused, coach. And they had that mental discipline. Every single player was tuned into that task. Not one player I felt, even Venezuela when he come on, and Kubo when he changed to position, I felt we didn't get weaker. I felt that the team actually grew in confidence, which is crazy to think. But I actually felt that the determination and the consistency of the players' movements and the communication really paid off. And against Columbus Crew, you make one mistake like the goal, and they're going to score. But so for the majority of that game, the Cincinnati had that consistency, that communication, that understanding that when a player goes, I need to go here, right? If he's not in the right place, I need to communicate to him to tell him to be in the right place. And with that communication coach, I'm telling you, if they get this right, if they was able to get this right against Columbus now, if now we're building, they get stronger and stronger and better as this lineup goes along. Coach, you know, we got to the Supporters Shield last year. We're talking about a team that could potentially win, you know, a MLS Cup if they play this way. You know, looking at it, you know, it is in
Justin,
them.
you're just making all of the people listening to this like clapping and cheering at their radio. This is dangerous. People listen to this in the car. Quit being so inspirational and talking
No,
about
it's
such
not
great things.
dangerous. No, it's no, it's just it's the truth though, because the way they played, Columbus Crew, okay, they come back from a champion, but they're still a good team. They're a very good team. But we outplayed them. We played in a way that they didn't expect from Cincinnati. They didn't expect the communication. They didn't expect this. They didn't expect that. But that's come from experience and togetherness of the team. And the communication coach, I feel in this game was key, especially with the noise that was made in that stadium.
Yeah, oddly enough, just a quick aside, I loved watching that match when, especially down the stretch, all I could hear over the broadcast was the FC Cincinnati fans. I could just hear that song,
Yeah, that was the
Roman
best.
Celentano. I could hear that. And it's like when you can hear it that clear on a broadcast, you know that is overpowering in the stadium. And I love that.
Yeah.
Justin, you mentioned the goal. FCC limited Columbus to only a handful of chances. We talked about Rossi's two at the back post that Roman probably had covered, but we need to talk about that 89th minute goal. I will describe it and then get your thoughts on it. So the ball is on the FCC right, and Kubo tries to shield it out for a throw in, takes a nudge from Diego Rossi, goes down. The whistle doesn't blow, so they play on. Rossi tries to play a 1-2 with Ramirez. It's well defended. I think Robinson deflects it out to the top of the box to Zawadzki. I couldn't really tell. It might have been Rossi actually flicked it out there. I don't know. But Pinto tries to get a touch on that ball as it heads toward Zawadzki, but doesn't. So he kind of goes by the play. Zawadzki lines up a shot, and it's blocked by Murphy, but falls to Max Arfston just inside the box on the FCC left. Arfston kind of hesitates like he's going to shoot right-footed, and Murphy kind of turns, thinking that the shot's coming. He shifts the ball to his left and just guides it into the far side netting. Justin, a lot happened in that goal, and I'm sure there are a lot of like individual breakdowns, but what were the big ones that you saw?
Obviously, first off, is not seeing the ball out of play, especially in that situation. I know it was probably a foul, but you've got to see the ball out. Just try and get the ball out, whatever cost. Don't let him get there. And then I felt, as I'm watching it, I felt that in that 1-2 situation, I felt Buka, instead of watching the man, he watched the ball. And that's a very key thing. If he would have watched his man and tracked his man instead of going to the ball, knowing that the player's going to run on his blind side, I feel he'll intercept that and will be able to clear it. He didn't do so. They was able to play behind him. And then I guess after that, Pinto is, I would say, unlucky to not be able to get to the ball. And now we're nitpicking now, coach. I would say Murphy done the right thing and shown him the one way, but I felt his body position when the guy cut back was completely wrong. He should still force him that way, force him away from goal. As soon as you let someone come in on that inside, you know he's going to go for goal. And luckily for Columbus, they scored.
So, a question about the Kubo situation, because it's easy for me as a fan to be like, this is what needs to happen. But I wonder as a player, what you're taught, not just like what your reaction is, but what you're taught. When you see players go down and want a foul like that, he probably got nudged. It probably was a foul. What you often see them do is grab hold of the ball, telling the
I was going
official,
to say
you
that, yeah.
blow the
I would have
whistle.
jumped on the
Either
ball.
you call it on me or him.
Jump on the ball, all costs.
Yeah, you're knocking out of
I would have
bounds with
jumped
your
on the ball,
hand.
coach.
Anything you need to do, right? Cannot let Rossi come away with that ball.
No. 100%.
Now,
You're right, Nick. I was going to
would a
say that you have to jump on the ball, hug the ball, whatever you can to disrupt what they're about to do. And if he doesn't give the foul, then say, oh, how can you did not give the foul? It was my foul. But at least you're giving away a free kick in that area, in that zone.
Two more questions. Already on a yellow, as Yuya Kubo was. Does that change things? Are you worried about grabbing the ball? Because is that little birdie in your mind saying, if I grab this ball on purpose, I might be sent off?
Probably. But there is a way, and I've slowed it down. He could have fallen on top of the ball without handling it. I know that's a lot to process at the
Yeah,
time,
yeah.
but I felt that he could just, or just, I don't know, coach. I would have just tried to dive on top of the ball, get a little nudge. Oh, I've fallen on top of the ball. That's the foul. If the referee doesn't give it, then you're still in the way and you still break their attack. I think he tried to do that, but at the same time, I felt like he tried to move his hands out the way because
Yeah.
probably knew he was on a yellow and probably thought, oh, I don't want to handball this because if I do, I could be sent off. So that was probably his thought process on let me not let the ball not hit my hand, and
Right.
obviously looking at the referee thinking that should have been a foul.
Last question about that.
Yes.
As a defender, are you just way smarter about that than a midfielder or a forward would be? Because it
Yeah.
does seem like a wily thing to do that as a defender, you're like, I've been in this situation
Yeah.
lots,
Yeah.
trying to see a ball out
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
over.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a midfielder or a forward might just be like throwing their hands up at the ref, like, come on, you got to call that. And as a defender, you're like, I know I cannot risk the ref not calling it. And so should we forgive you a
Yeah.
little bit that he's not actually a wingback?
Yeah, we have to. We've seen it sometimes with strikers. When they put the ball into the corner and they got the defender that nudges them in the back, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden they fall on top of the ball. That is the same scenario, but just in a defensive situation. So I
Right.
feel in that sense, he was more attack minded, but then curious that if he does anything wrong, he potentially taking another yellow card and getting a red card. So I think he had that in mind why he felt the way he did. But for me, defender's instincts, if you're there on a regular basis, it's happened to you more than once. You kind of understand what you need to do in that situation without, getting a booking, which
Yeah.
I think the referee probably would have understood.
And then the last thing with this goal that I'll say, this is just my opinion. It looked to me like Luca Orishano ball watches a bit after that shot deflects off Murphy. I think if
Hmm.
Orishano goes and recognizes that Murphy is closing down Arfston in a 1v1 situation and that he needs to get there in case Arfston shifts onto his left, I think Luca
Hmm.
is getting to that ball before Arfston shoots. So
Hmm.
that's the only other thing. But Justin, we talked about the defense and the midfield, and I think we covered that pretty well. So let's take a break and then come back and talk about Dado Valenzuela and why I think that the Crew's ego did them in a bit. Beyond Exercise is a local physical therapy and fitness company that helps anyone get and stay active. They have helped players like Nick Hagland and Brandon Vasquez with their physical therapy and strength training needs during the offseason. They are still offering that ACL injury prevention screening, which was piloted by Nick and Brandon. Get in touch with them about that or any of your physical therapy or strength training needs. Learn more at gobeyondexercise.com. I also want to let you know that we are unofficially brought to you by the Pretty Bird Pale Ale out of Rhinegeist Brewery. This beer is interesting. It has sweet fruit notes with definite blueberry over a light and pithy bitterness. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5, but I think that could grow as I have another one. If you want to talk to me about beer or soccer, get in touch with me on the socials at FC Cincy Tac Talk. If you have a question or comment, you can always get at me there or send me a note to feedback at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. All right, Justin, let's talk a little bit before we get to Dado about just FCC's offense in general. Did you notice any wrinkles that allowed them to be more successful in this match? Because they held on to possession more than most opponents do against the Columbus Crew, especially playing in their stadium.
And this I was shocked about because we've not seen it too often this season for them to play this way. And we've spoke about it where we say players need to trust and have confidence in each other. I felt in this game, every player had confidence in the player's ability and trust in that player to be able to receive the ball, play the right pass, and be able to control possession. And I felt that really upset Columbus's Crew's rhythm, but made Cincinnati build into this game and really, really show their dominance on the ball and how good they can be. Um, so yeah, coach, I feel that it was just something that I didn't expect,
Yeah.
but something that really, really showed, look, whoa, this is what they're capable of doing when they trust and have that belief in each other that they can handle the ball.
And I think specifically, building out of the back, the Crew pressed really hard and high,
Mhm.
and FCC seems so calm. So often, what happens against the Crew is they send so many bodies forward that their initial press or counter press when they lose the ball is so fierce because they'll have 8
Yeah,
players there to press the ball.
yeah, yeah.
And
Press the
so
ball,
often
yeah.
teams then try to play long, thinking we have numerical advantage, And if you don't get that outlet pass just right, the Crew get the ball and they're ramming it right down your throat. But FCC built out so well. I thought even Roman Celentano, who we often, not you and I, but we as fans criticize for his skill on the ball, several times would like wait for that Crew player to start running at him and then would just bypass him, pass it out wide or pass it into the midfield. And all of those, Celentano completed every single one of his short and medium passes. And he also completed half of his long passes, which is really good for any goalkeeper, but especially for him. But all of the players, like you said, it's about trust. And that begs the question, Justin, because we've been asked on here several times, like it seems like FCC really struggle against pressing teams. Is this team good against pressing teams and just don't show it? Like they have all of that skill? Or are they not good against pressing teams and they just happen to be tuned in and keyed in for this game? Because it's kind of got to be one or the other. It feels like they have the skill, but they don't show it really all that often.
No, they don't show it very often, but now they've shown that they can do it. I think teams will be worried. And I feel that having this performance, I feel now they have the confidence to know that if they go against a team that does want to press or plays like how Columbus play, they're able to deal with it. And now us as fans now are going to want to be expecting it, coach. It's not just one weekend we're going to expect it. We're going to want to expect it all the time because we know that they're capable of doing that. So when they don't do it, we're going to be asking questions. Why? Because we played Columbus Crew, you're up for it now because we playing someone else, you're not. They've got it in their locker. And we know this team's going to grow from strength to strength. It's great that we can see it. But now how are they going to build on this, coach? What is the next step? Can they do it more consistent game week after week? But it's in their locker, coach. They've got it. They've shown us that they can do it. And I think that's just another thing to add to their team.
Yeah. The other wrinkle that I saw attacking wise, once they got out of build and transitioned, not really a wrinkle, but I thought they did a really good job of picking their moments when to attack through transition and when to put their foot on the ball and pull it back. They didn't do all of one or all of the other. And then the other thing is the wing backs on both sides. Once Alvis Powell had to step out and Yuya Kubo slid back in the 13th minute, both of them played really narrow at times, which might have been a function of how they were defending because Columbus pushes their outside center backs high and the wing backs oftentimes ended up marking them. Or it might have been a tactical thing offensively. All I know is that Kubo ended up having 6 touches inside the penalty area and he only played striker for 13 minutes. So most of those came as a wing back. And they weren't happening out wide in the penalty area. There's a moment at the very end of the first half that Yuya Kubo was in the right half space. Lucho floats wide right to pick up the ball. Kubo darts in behind. Lucho slips him in. And Kubo does really well to drag his shot and put it on frame, but he doesn't lift it at all. So Schulte's able to save it with basically a toenail. And then something similar right at the end of the game when he had a chance to make it 3 goals for FC Cincinnati, but instead of shooting, he tries to go around Schulte and Schulte gets a hand to it. Is this a situation where Kubo adds such a nice attacking presence from that wing back? Plus, Luca Oriano has that ability to come inside that they can play this way and they just can't with Powell or Yedlin? Or do you think that this is something where they can balance it out but find these kinds of moments with those other two on the pitch as well?
I feel you can balance it out, but I feel what Kubo gives you is that understanding and that calmness and being comfortable on the ball on that side, which don't get me wrong, I think Powell and Yedlin can do, but I feel Kubo has that step above them, that he has that calmness and that understanding to be able to know when to play short, play fast, play easy, play simple, and control the tempo from his side. And I felt that really, really did do well against the Crew. And I thought that also helped the team build up play and help the team in possession. Because he's comfortable on the ball. Oriano is comfortable on the ball. And I thought that really, really helped the team. And Kubo getting in the box, not being a striker. Sometimes you think to yourself, Kubo was the striker. Now he's gone to Arts to play right. And I feel the team didn't get weaker. If anything, it was a stronger lineup after that.
Yeah.
It just seemed like they grew from strength to strength. I felt Powell was doing a great job until we come off. And I felt moving Kubo back, yes, Kubo gave us so much up front, but moving him back, I felt like we gained something on that right side that we didn't have in the previous games.
Yeah, and there's a lot of talk about Kubo being like, well, but he had those two really good chances and didn't finish either of them. And this is not just this game thing. He hasn't finished a lot in the past. And I think two things about that. Number one, you're talking about a guy who spent most of the last 4 seasons playing defensive central midfielder and
He's not
not
even a striker.
exactly. So he's just rounding into getting those chances. And then number two, when a wingback is getting that good of chances offensively, whether you score or not, you have the defense changes the way that they
Mm-hmm.
are defending, right? Like Justin, if a
Mm-hmm.
wingback that you're opposing, say you're playing right outside back, and the wingback on that side gets 2 chances or even 1 chance that close to scoring, you're thinking about things a little bit differently as
Yeah,
you defend, even if they didn't make the goal, right?
mm-hmm. You are.
Totally.
And at least he's in the right positions to even create them chances, you know. And someone who is not a striker, has not played a natural striker, or who is a wide man or a central midfield player, you know, he has chances, but that's not his niche. That's not him. He's not a goal scorer. So that's, I think, what we need to understand. He's a utility man, and he does every position very, very well. And
Yeah.
that's a key to this team.
I agree. Whether he's coming off the bench or starting, he is such a key piece, and I'm so glad that they brought him back. Because
Yeah, and
remember,
that was a
he
big
could have
one to
left.
bring back.
But we
I
cannot
know.
talk about FC Cincinnati's offense, Justin, without talking about the substitution that they had to make in the 13th minute when they brought Dado Valenzuela in for a hobbled Alvis Powell. Dado played forward, slid Yu Kuba back to right wing back. We had Mike Prentice, we had Wolfster, a couple others get in touch that wanted us to talk about Dado's impact on the match. The first thing I noticed, Justin, is that he played much more like a second 10 than he did like a second
Two
striker.
tens.
When FCC
Yeah, he
had
did.
possession at the back and Nagby and Morris were having to drop into account for both Lucho and Dado between the lines, it
It's
did two
horrible.
things. Not only did it free up Obi and Buka to play a much bigger role in build out, but it also left gaps for Lucho and Dado to get on the ball. Dado led the team with 9 progressive receptions. Justin, how good was Dado's presence between the lines and receiving those balls in this match?
It was great. He had a good for a young player. He had a great understanding of where to be. His positioning, it was good. And I felt he felt very confident. He didn't look out of place, and it was a great substitute to bring on. You know, some people would have been like, "Well, why are they bringing him on?" You know, we've got other players on the bench, but I felt the manager had the trust in him to do what he needed to do. And as you looked at it, coach, and you said it was like a two number 10. That's where he likes to play. That's where he likes to operate. And he's just shown you just what he's capable of doing and having that understanding. I think with Lucho as well, I think it was great. It was a great substitution to make. And I feel he had a great impact. He really, really had a good impact in this game. And that's what you want from your substitute.
Yeah, he didn't not only did a great job getting on the ball in those positions, but I thought his link up play and his hold up play were
That's
both
good.
very good. There were several moments where he dropped in between the lines in the first half and then just ended up having to play a one touch pass under pressure, but got it right nearly every time. There's a moment in the 51st minute also in like a sort of hold up play when there was a ball out to Lucho on the left and Lucho flicked it for Dado and flicked it kind of up the line. He's running down the left sideline with Aiden Morris tailing him. He holds up under pressure from Morris, doesn't try to do too much, cuts it back, lets the defender go by, and then plays a square ball. And it's just such great hold up play that allowed FC Cincinnati to get forward in possession instead of losing the ball there, like we've seen some of the other
Mm.
forwards do. There's in the 66th minute, Orshano plays him on the left, and his back is to goal. And at that exact moment, we see a player like Corey Baird always try to play underneath. Like he knows he doesn't trust himself in hold up play. He doesn't
Yeah,
ever try to
yeah,
turn with the
yeah.
ball. Sometimes if it's one touch and there's somebody open, he gets it right. Sometimes he gets it wrong. Dado fakes like he's going to receive, just does a silky smooth turn with the outside of his foot, absorbs contact on the sideline. Then as soon as he feels that heavy nudge, he goes down and earns a dangerous free kick for FC Cincinnati. So here's my question. I kind of put him in relationship to Corey Baird there for a reason. Has Dado done enough at this point to earn consideration to start up top instead of Baird in these moments when that's the question, is Baird going to start or not?
I feel he's done well this game. I still feel he needs, I would say another game before to say, right, he's done enough to start over Baird. But I feel he's got the potential to take over him if his development continues the way he did. The manager's already got trust in him. So the next step is to start him from the beginning. You're not going to replace Lucho. So who's the only other place he can replace? With Kubo, as we might probably think, will be the outside back. It is a strong possibility that he could fill that void for the time being. Although you got Kelsey, but I still feel that he has that potential to overtake Baird if Baird's not doing the job.
There's the reason why it's a big question is for Wednesday's match against Atlanta, because you have Brett Halsey is coming back because he won't be suspended from red card anymore. But Alvis Powell and DeAndre Yedlin, I'm just going to assume are both out. Powell, So do you drop Kubo? And is Kelsey ready to start, or he hasn't played more than 30 minutes in a match? So I imagine he's still trying to build fitness. So I would doubt that the manager feels okay with him just starting. Or do you have an extra forward spot? Do you slide Kubo back and do you start Baird and Dado? Do you start Kelsey and Kubo's in the back? So you have to choose between Dado and Baird. We don't need to answer this question, Justin, because the last time I asked you, you gave a very heavy sigh.
I was so curious because you asked me, Coach. I was like, right, I'm going to answer this one then.
The one thing I want to say is I just want to key in on something you said, that he did well in this match. And the reason why I want to key in on that is I think there's a big section of FC Cincinnati supporters who are like, Dado Valenzuela is better than Corey Baird. And I think that Corey Baird has left a lot to be desired at times this year. I also think if you go back and actually watch Dado Valenzuela, and not just the overall feeling of how he played and not thinking of him as a sub or a young player, but thinking of him as a player on the pitch, he also made some pretty decent mistakes. There were two balls where he got touches either at the edge of the box or inside the box that Lucho played him, that he fumbled over the ball and turned it over right away when he maybe should have gotten a shot off, right? So it's not like it's perfect from him. So I just want to, pump the brakes a little bit on this kid and say, I am really impressed with his development. I think he did well in this game and I would love to see him more often. That doesn't mean starting instead of Baird. It means more often. It means more substitute appearance, the occasional start, those sorts of things. Now I want to talk about my favorite topic in this whole podcast, and that is the crew hubris. Because I think that's where we get to talk about these FCC goals. So first of all, when I saw that Wilfred Nancy started Matan, their attacking midfielder / winger, as a wingback, and not like Kubo playing wingback, not utility player, a player that I don't know has played wingback at all for them. I thought, wow, that was a statement from Wilfred Nancy that he thought he was going to be able to absolutely boss possession in this game.
Yeah, 100%.
What is the effect on the starters on FCC when you walk out there, or when you look at the lineup sheet and you see that the opponent has made a bold move to like put a player in like that? Does that make you feel like, oh man, they are going to be attacking at us all day? Does that make you feel like, oh, we're going to make them pay for that decision? Or is it just like another name on a list and you're just doing you and I'm reading too much into this as a fan?
Nah, Coach, I think you're reading too much into it as a fan. I think what we look at it is be like, okay, I think in a sense they've shown a little bit of respect. In another sense, they've been a little bit disrespectful by being like, right, we're going to dominate this game. We're going to play, with the personnel. But as a player and as asking for information to the coach, probably knowing, understanding their feedback, it's just another name. The only thing that changes is probably the way they would want to play and the type of personnel in that position, or on who you're against. I feel that's the only thing that changes in the way probably they want to play. But I felt that probably helped Cincinnati's play with him being there. And I really felt that worked in Cincinnati's favor. It probably worked against Columbus Crew.
Yeah, I think Luca Orashano got in behind him on several occasions. And on the occasions it wasn't Luca, it was The understanding that we talked about FCC had so good about communicating and the outside center backs knowing when to pick up, that the Crew didn't have that on the right side, and they were running, Yuya Kubo was running in behind constantly. Another moment that I thought showed a little bit of hubris is when it was a tie game in the 70th minute, and Nancy took out Aiden Morris to put on another attacking wing back in Yayaboa. So that took Zawadzki, who was playing right wing back, or maybe he was left wing back at the time. And he took him and moved him to midfield. He was playing, it doesn't matter, right or left. That moved him to midfield. So it took out one of your defensive stalwarts in Aiden Morris, and it put in a guy who might have started his career as a midfielder, but has not played there hardly at all. So it was really a move to get Yayaboa on as a wingback to really push the issue. Yayaboa, also a winger that has converted to wingback, right? And immediately when they made that change, FCC started to take advantage. Right after those subs, I noticed Buka pressing higher into the attack, taking advantage of the space that Aiden Morris had been so good at limiting and occupying. And now Buka had been very good all match, but relatively quiet until this change. And that's where the FCC first goal came on. So let's talk about that. It started with FCC pressing. Buka pressed Patrick Schulte, the goalkeeper, on a back pass and forced a giveaway. Miazga stepped in to win the ball, touches it to Obi. Obi passes it to Dado in the right half space. Dado has an awesome little turn, faked like he was receiving, dropped the shoulder, and, as they say, and turned the forward. Shifted the ball to the right to Yuya Kubo, and Buka, remember, is still forward in this space. Okay? Kubo has a little outside of the flick to Buka. Buka has a great turn, lays it back for Lucho, and then Lucho goes all Lucho on them and dribbles through the defense to the end line. I love his little hesitation, gets the forward to go down, stands it up at the back post, and then Kevin Kelsey just absolutely dunking on that other wingback who's not really a wingback, Matan. Now, I'm not saying any other wingback for Crew would have been able to defend that. I do think Zawadzki, who was on that side, would have been able to defend it better than Matan did because he's
probably 100%.
So that goal, Justin. First, just to describe to me like what you saw in that goal, and then we'll talk about whether it was the Crew's hubris that made it happen.
I like Venezuela's movement. The way he was able to obviously play the 1-2 with Obi, and I like his body position where he faked like he was going to give it back, and he done a move on Nagby that Nagby normally does to everybody else, which was great to see. He was still confident in not just giving the wrong pass. He made the right decision, and I felt that Baird. What I like about I know it wasn't even Baird, even what it was Buka, I think. Buka picked up the right position in between the two defenders. He wasn't marked, was able to play in the right zone to be able to play and pick up the received bars, always checking over his shoulder. And then again, of course, coach, I felt Nagby got caught sleeping, which was a great sign for us because he just let Lucho run off the back of him. And, once you get the ball to Lucho in the box, as you say, coach, Lucho will do Lucho. And what I like about it is the stand up to the back post. But if you watch Kelsey's movement, he knew that ball was going into the back post. He was waiting for that type of header. And what a better way to score on your debut.
Yeah, and we have more to talk about Kelsey on the next goal too, and Lucho being Lucho. But first, sticking with this goal, do you think this was just a moment in the match where FCC asserted themselves and took over, or do you think it had a little bit to do with the Crew making those changes? If you remember, right before that, there was all this confusion. Zawadzki didn't know what Nancy wanted from him. Matana had switched to the other side. All of these things happening, and to me as a coach, I'm thinking, at least after the game, if that was me, I'm thinking, man, I got ahead of myself there. I should not have been so complex. I should have put more respect on FC Cincinnati and not thought that I can just move these pieces around like chess pieces and make the win happen for me.
I fairly overthought things in that situation. And even the commentators were saying some of the players or one of the players actually went down to tie his shoelace to try and stop the game, to try and get a bit of understanding on what is actually going on. Yeah, so I felt that in that stage, it helped Cincinnati because I felt that they was all over the place, disjointed. And then just after we scored, so I felt it was a perfect time for Cincinnati to score and I felt, which was great for us, that Columbus Crew at that stage made the wrong decision at the wrong time. But all in all, thank you for making that decision because it got us the goal.
Yeah, it takes a good team to take advantage of that, and that's
Yeah.
what FC Cincinnati did. So let's talk about the second goal because it came just minutes later. Roman hits a long ball to Kelsey, and Kelsey does something we haven't seen a forward do all year and brought it down on his chest and kept the ball for FC Cincinnati. That was loud. What was that? Okay, sorry. Charles will cut that out.
Yeah.
Let's see. Kelsey did what we haven't seen a forward do all year and brought the ball down on his chest and kept possession of the ball. The ball ends up being played down the left touchline for Dado Valenzuela. Lucho makes a good hard run into the box, and Zawadzki, a midfielder at this point, collapses too deep following him. So Dado recognizes where the space is. He quickly shifts it to Orshano behind him, who shifts it immediately square to Buka at the top of the D, who is pressed into the space where Zawadzki normally would be. Buka one touches it into Lucho as Zawadzki is rushing out to try to close him down. Lucho cuts Moreira like Moreira's never played defense in his life, just leaves him in his dust, and then buries the ball into the far corner of the net. Justin, what did you see on that goal?
So it's a great team play. What I like about it mostly is obviously we see the touch from Kelsey there, bringing it down on his chest, something we don't see very often. But now, obviously, bringing him in, we're going to see it a bit more. But as the play develops, what I like is about Buka's decision, the decision and understanding that he needed to play one touch to Lucho to be able for Lucho to get onto the ball straight away. And, as we say, Lucho just does Lucho. Reigning MVP does what he does best. But I would say, Coach, this is a great team goal.
Yeah.
A good understanding when to play long, a good understanding from Kelsey to bring the ball down, to hold it up for players to have runners. We had forward runs. We was patient in the build up. And when we needed to play quick in and around the box, we played the right pass. And then we give it to the magician to do his magic.
Yeah, and I did a scouting report on Kevin Kelsey, and that's on CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com if you want to go check that out. One of the things I said about him is that you do not have to ask him twice to battle with center backs. He will go and run and find those center backs and say, hey, guys, come on, let's fight. Let's battle. Because he's not going to run away from them. And this goal, I think, showed how valuable that is. Because after he drops deep, connects play, the ball's played down to the left. What does he do? He immediately goes after those center backs and then goes to the far post. He comes and says, hey guys, just so you know, I'm going to be hanging out over here on the back post. Come defend me if you dare. That causes Moreira to drop in a bit more and slide that way. It causes Camacho to slide that way, which leaves that huge gap for Lucho Acosta to make that run into. And so many forwards, Baird and Kubo, not bad. It's just the kind of player they are, would try to drift off the back of that center back and not let them know that they're there. They're trying to be sneaky about it. But having a player like a Vasquez or like a Kelsey who is like, no, I want the center backs to come try to guard me here. That just occupies them and allows everyone to have so much space. And we have more talk about Kelsey and his relationship with Lucho and how this is going to work in the mailbag. So I say we hit a promo and then we get to that.
Let's go.
It's that time in the show when I take a minute to thank all of you for listening to today's episode. Thanks for continuing to download or listen online or watch or however you take this in. And thanks in advance for spreading the word. How can you do that, you might ask? You could tell a friend, or you could hop on over to CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/coach Apple Podcast to rate and review the show. We have not had a new review in May yet, so I'm still looking for 1 or 10 of those. If you want to become a supporter of Cincinnati Soccer Talk, you can do so over at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/support, and we would love that as well. In terms of this show, you have to remember it's your show. Justin and I just talk about the stuff that you want us to talk about. So whether it's tactics or coaching, or you want Justin's perspective as a former player, you can always get at us on Twitter or Instagram or Threads or Facebook, or drop us a note in the mailbag. Speaking of the mailbag, all right, Justin, let's get to the mailbag. Jose Guerra wants to know, says this team has been more fluid and the lines were better connected, even against a very good opponent in the Columbus Crew, than they were against Orlando. What changed? Justin, is it too reductive to say that they were up for it? What was the biggest difference in this match than against Orlando that made it so much better for you? Was it Valenzuela? There are lots of options here.
I would say there was more up for the game. I would say there was more in tuned, more. I would say it was a revenge game for them. And I would really say it was down to having that full focus in this game to go out and make sure that they put on performance and beat Columbus Crew in their own stadium. And I really felt that is why I feel personally that is why they performed a lot better in this game than they did against Orlando. Now, from a coaching point of view, why do you feel that was, or do you feel it was a better performance? Which
yeah,
looking at it from a coach's point of view.
I think you're right. I also think there were some circumstances that came together that made it really good. Against a team like Columbus Crew, you have to be able to connect short, quick passes. And I think Yuya Kubo, as a right wing back, is better at that than DeAndre Yedlin. Not a better right wing back, just simply better at connecting quick passes. I think Dado Valenzuela is better at that than Corey Baird. Now, I get Corey Baird was still in there, but instead of Corey and Yuya dropping in, it was Dado Valenzuela dropping in most of the time. Corey Baird wasn't asked to do that as much because we talked about it. Dado played more like a second 10, which left Corey Baird kind of as the spearhead or the 9 in that attack. So I think those two things also allowed the lines to be better connected. So I think it was a both and. It'll be interesting to see as this personnel is mixed up. Like, let's say we get Kelsey and Baird with Kubo on the right. Does that change things against Atlanta? Or I think we'll start to see a little bit more of how this works. Mike Prentice wants to know if Valenzuela has done enough to force Noonan to think of ways to get he and Lucho on the pitch together more. So this isn't a Dado versus Baird thing. This is just do you think the way it looks with them playing as dual 10s, or, nominally maybe Dado's a forward, but he's dropping in a lot. Do you think that relationship looks good enough to where you want to see that more often, let's say almost any time that FCC is chasing a game the last 15 minutes?
I would say if we're chasing the game last 15 minutes, even the last half an hour, if we need to get a goal, the only problem is if everyone's healthy, everyone's fit, we're not going to get the both of the partnerships. We'll be honest, we're not going to argue, coach, but it would be good to see how they would perform at the start of a game and maybe a good run of games with probably Kelsey up top. That would be a good. Just to see how it would work, would it work? Is it going to be how it was against Columbus? Will it be a different way of playing? I guess playing against a different opponent will be different. So, but I think getting even 20 minutes, 10 minutes, that understanding between the two of them with dual number 10s, I think it's a good option. I'd say it's a good option. I don't think it's the number one option, but I think it's a great option to have and a good headache that the coach now has.
For me, this is where I get into the hubris, or we talked about Nancy overthinking things. This is where Coach Brad overthinks things, because what I want, I'm a tinkerer, Justin, I can't help it. What I want to happen is I want for Noonan to look at matchups and say, we're at home and we're playing Chicago Fire. This is a game that we should dominate the ball. I'm going to start Dado as a second number 10, Kelsey up top, Bupenza, whoever, but I'm going to do this because I want to dominate the ball and suffocate this team with possession. Or we're on the road and we're playing Atlanta United. I think we're going to be counterattacking more. I want Baird and Kubo out there, so I want to see more of those. Like, I think that there's enough. There are more than 11 starters on this team, is what I'm trying to say.
100%.
When you have more than 11 starters, finding reasons to start them rather than just rotation, I think can be important. I also get there's a lot of benefit to saying, no, I have my set starting 11 and I will tinker or tweak a little bit as we need, but I want these guys to be in sync and playing together. So we'll see, especially when Bupenza comes back, Justin. There's more than 11 starters on this team, and that's a good problem to have. Derek Burdett got in touch and wants to know our thoughts on the Acosta-Kelsey pairing in attack. So I already talked about the way Kelsey battles center backs and opens up space. Outside of that, I'm not sure I saw. There was obviously the goal where Acosta had the assist, but it's not like they were linking up together, playing wall passes. I'm not sure there's that much of a pairing or an understanding yet. For me, the biggest benefit to the Kelsey Acosta pairing is simply that Kelsey is going to draw attention because he's a big body and give Lucho more space to operate in. Do you think that I'm off base there? Or is that what you see as well?
No, that's what I see as well. I agree with you. I can't argue. I feel like I see the same thing. So in that one, coach, I agree with you. I can't add anything to that because I agree. It's
Nope,
completely what you
totally
say.
fine. Let's move on. Let's finish it up with this question from K Wanch on Threads. They felt like Kubo sliding over and Dado coming in allowed FCC to control possessions in a way that maybe wasn't the game plan, but once the team adjusted it,
Oof.
ended it up
Mhm.
being the winning formula. So,
A good
Justin,
spot.
I'm not asking you to solve this long term. I'm asking you to think about what you know about Atlanta United. FC Cincinnati is playing on Wednesday at home against a struggling Atlanta United, but a team that generally likes to have more of the ball and has some really good attacking talent in like Almada and Giacomakis. And I am
Yep.
asking you, going forward, this winning formula of a guy like Dado helping you possess the ball, a guy like Yuya Kubo on the right. Like I said, Halsey is going to be back fit. You don't have to name for me the starting lineup, but do you bring a natural right back in and a natural forward in and play that way? Or do you think something like saying, hey, you know what? Actually, Kubo is a right wing back. I'm comfortable enough there. And a guy that can help more in possession, like a Dado Valenzuela, actually might be a good option.
I'll be honest, coach. When I saw Kubo do so well there, I just saw Nunez's first thought was Kubo right there. And I feel in this game now, I feel that Kubo deserves that spot. I feel he's done well enough when he's played there. And my personal opinion is that he will probably play on the right hand side. Now, going forward in the attacking third, who do I think will play? I don't know if Kelsey's ready yet. If he is, he'll probably play up top and Baird and I would say Lucho underneath. If he's not ready, I would go with Venezuela and Baird and Lucho underneath, and
Interesting.
then bring Kelsey on as the impact, ready to start probably the following Saturday.
Yeah,
Um,
question for you about
I
that.
don't know if it's too early to start. I don't know if it's too early to bring him in.
Right.
You don't want him to break down or anything.
Now I know you don't know specifically about Kelsey's fitness, but we talk as you I've heard you talk as a player about what it takes to get match fit. Kelsey
Mhm.
came in and played what about 20 minutes in this match.
Yeah, he's not ready to
You
start a
know,
game. I don't
maybe
think.
20, 23, 25. What would that buildup be like? Do you go from playing 25 minutes in a match to starting the next match and just
No,
know you're probably going to get pulled after 60? Or, do you hope to be
I
subbed
don't.
as a halftime sub, which would be a rare thing? Or are you like, no, just give me 30 or 35 minutes this next time and then I'll be ready to start? What is that buildup that you're looking for?
I feel still someone who's still new, fairly travelled. I still feel you need that introduction phase into the MLS. I still feel you need that 20 minutes, that half an hour. Okay, you might not come on a half time, which you wish you would, but I still feel you need another 20 minutes, another half an hour, another 20 minutes here to really be up to speed. Because I feel in the MLS, you start right from the beginning after just playing 20 minutes. I would say you'll tire out a lot quicker than you think. Although you're fit, you'll tire out a lot quicker than you think. And I still think it'll be more strenuous on your body long term. Um, so I feel that giving you a little taster, right now you're starting, especially now with a game Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday. I think it's perfect that you played 20. Hopefully, the team's winning. You can introduce him in half an hour and then maybe half an hour again on Saturday, ready to start fully the week after. And I feel that is a good insight to bring you in just because you've got these three games. I think it's a great introduction having these three close games.
Speaking of insight, Justin, having your perspective as a player, as a guy who has done this is so, so valuable. So I appreciate you, my friend. Thanks for bringing it each and every week. You crushed it today. You were so good.
I'm trying, coach. Now, I said to you off air that I'm learning. I'm doing my coaching license, and now I'm
Yeah.
seeing football from a different perspective. I've been talking to you a lot, learning how you do things, listening to your way of thinking as a coach. So now I'm bringing that
Oh,
information out on
don't
me
do that.
from
You're
the
going to fail
training
your
field,
badges.
from my coaching sessions. No, I'm doing well, coach. I'm doing okay at the minute. I'm doing okay. So I'm learning from what I'm learning there, watching the games and talking from a player / half coach, because you're the full coach. I'm just the assistant.
Just for
You're
now.
killing it, coach, like you always do. No, you're doing it. You're the main man, coach. I'm here to guide. I'm here to sit back and just answer the questions that you ask me to, coach.
Well, you're doing it well. Thanks for doing it, my friend.
Anytime, coach. Thanks so much. Thanks, listeners, as well.
And that is it for this episode of Talking Tactics with Coach Gough. If you want to do us a huge favor, even if you're listening online or watching the YouTube, head on over to get subscribed to the podcast so we get those download numbers. And make sure you tell a friend. And if you feel so inclined, head on over to cincinnati-soccer-talk.com/coach Apple Podcasts to rate and review the show. Other than that, thank you from the bottom of my heart for being with us today. Thanks to my co-host, Justin Hoyte, and thanks as always to producer Charles for making this show audible. I had fun today, and I'm hoping you did too. This is Coach Brad Gough reminding you that soccer is a privilege. So whether you're watching, coaching, or playing, don't forget to smile.